I'm not sure the cover artist actually read this book, because that cover is about as bland and generic as you can get. Nancy reads a newspaper and something bad happens to her. That could be for almost any book in this series. But hey, at least we've got a good new picture for Ned.
Argofunk Book Review, Argofunk Book Review.
The book begins with Nancy being arrested by Lieutenant Kowalski. She's not being arrested for her long history of breaking and entering, which she does in practically every book. No, she's arrested because of a scam artist who's claiming to be her and cheating people in Mapleton. They put Nancy in a police lineup, but both of the victims fail to identify her, so the police let Nancy off with a warning. A warning that she'd better watch her back, cause Kowalski's gonna get some hard evidence to prove her guilt, and yeah, whatever, angry cop guy, we all know that won't happen. Nancy's rival, Brenda Carlton, is ecstatic, and she writes a newspaper article which makes Nancy look like a huge crook. I should be mad at Brenda, but she just confirmed Nancy Drew is 18. Is that the first time in this series we've been told what Nancy's age is? I think so! Thanks, Brenda! Also, curse you, Brenda, writing slanderous things about our heroine. We learn more about fake Nancy's scheme. Her criminal buddies harass an innocent person, trying to extort them for thousands. Fake Nancy swoops in and promises to catch the crooks with a trick bank account. Then she takes the money and runs. Nancy's father notes that this is very similar to a criminal he was prosecuting in Chicago last week. Nancy and her friends try to question the two witnesses, but they don't get any information, besides for the fact that fake Nancy operates out of the country club. A tense driver almost runs them off the road. 2 hours later, he's found murdered at the country club, holding a piece of paper with Nancy's name on it. Nancy says that's very interesting, but very circumstantial. Ooh, that's such a cool one-liner. Nancy is awesome. Let's hope nobody uses that line on her one day. Nancy needs to know when fake Nancy was at the country club, so she and Ned break in after hours, sneaking past heavy security. As it turns out, the culprit didn't write their name in the club register. Darn, I guess that means the culprit isn't a total idiot. The culprits appear at this point. Two culprits. Female culprit distracts Ned, while male culprit tries to kill Nancy. The security alarm is triggered, and they're all forced to run away before the cops arrive. Oh, Nancy. I love how she breaks the law in order to prove she's not a criminal. As it turns out, the criminal that Mr. Drew prosecuted is the murder victim, so he's probably not the culprit. Kowalski officially orders Nancy off the case, and Nancy's bummed out for a while, until she realizes Brenda is still on the case. So, Nancy is forced to team up with her hated rival, and wait, no, my mistake. Nancy decides to disguise herself as Brenda Carlton. She dyes her hair black, styles it, and everyone thinks she's Brenda. Huh, I didn't know they were the exact same height, weight, and build. Ned says the disguise is so good he has to kiss her a few times to make sure she's really Nancy. Nancy thinks it's cute, but I'm a little disturbed. Ned's first reaction is to kiss Nancy when she looks like someone else? Does Ned secretly have a thing for Brenda, or what? You know, if this was Sweet Valley High, real Brenda would show up at this point, and Ned would accidentally make out with her. Nancy Brenda interviews the victims, and she figures out the entire thing centers around a group of 4 people. Elizabeth Hackney, her boyfriend Barry, his niece Andrea, and the murder victim. Nancy thinks Andrea looks familiar, which is a big clue, but no, I reread this book. Nancy's never seen Andrea before in her life. Continuity! Ned goes to the club register and makes a list of every time the 4 suspects visited the club. What? Ned had access to the club register all along? Then why did Nancy and Ned have to break into the country club at night to get to the club register? Continuity! Some very interesting but very circumstantial evidence comes up against Barry and Andrea. Nancy goes to Barry's house and spies through the window. Conveniently, Barry and Andrea are openly discussing the details of their crimes. They're a husband and wife crime duo, and they frame Nancy for their crimes because, well, no particular reason. They've never met her or anything. She was just a convenient scapegoat. So the entire plot was just a random fluke. As for the murder victim, he was a red herring. He learned about the scheme and tried blackmailing the culprits, so they killed him. Nancy gets caught by the culprits and they decide to kidnap her. While they're driving away, Nancy causes a distraction by throwing the fake Nancy wig at Andrea. Nancy knocks them both unconscious and steers the car to safety in a snowfield. Oh, and her hands were tied the whole time, so she did all of this with her feet from the back seat. She has amazing leg control. The end. Post-book follow-up. I like this book. It was dramatic and suspenseful, and it was neat to see a Nancy Drew culprit along with Nancy impersonating Brenda. But there are also some problems with the book, like the culprits impersonating Nancy for no real reason. I'd say the main problem with the book is that we don't learn about the suspects until 2/3 of the way through, except for the red herring murder victim. And the section where we meet the suspects is confusing. I mentioned the continuity error where Nancy thinks she's seen Andrea before when she hasn't. There's also a continuity error where Andrea says Elizabeth is her aunt when that's not true. She is posing as Barry's niece. On top of those two goofs, the victim was using a fake name, so I definitely got thrown off trying to keep track of everybody and how they're related here. I would recommend rewriting the entire segment where Nancy visits the country club because it confused me and there were 3 continuity errors. That's the main problem with the book. Other than that, great book. Good premise, well executed, no scenes of Nancy being foolish in order to create fake suspense. I did see one complaint that it's a stretch to believe Nancy, Brenda, and fake Nancy are all so identical a wig is the only disguise needed to fool everyone. Yes, that's not so realistic, but what did you expect? Nancy's not going to have plastic surgery to look like Brenda Carlton, even if her boyfriend would really like that. I'm still a little worried about him kissing Brenda Nancy. I give Nancy Drew Files number 43, False Impressions, an 8 out of 10.